There was also in the 1976 information, there would be certain earthquakes, there would be fires in different countries, and blazing, including the American islands, Maui, and there would be some other things, and it's all just unfolded as was inevitable, because this material doesn't make mistakes. Now, if there is anybody that calls in and wants to, it's not an interruption, but wants to comment or speak about these things, well, that's fine. Just let our producer know and we'll click you in. But until that happens, if it happens, or until my guest Melissa comes on, I want to talk about something that occurred to me in the last couple of days, especially. I had titled one blog back, The War in Your World. So today, a short little blog, The Peace in Your World. This is the time, if ever there was, for us individually, certainly ourselves, within ourselves, in our families, with our neighbors, to be making peace the true path to love, peace, freedom, and harmony, making that peace, starting at ground zero, if you will, within ourselves. Now, I was reflecting on some things about the difficulty. I mean, just to be honest with you, the difficulty especially when you're close to people, how hard it can be at times to not engage in an argument when you're trying to share and exchange information and solve problem. And it occurred to me, part of this problem, in order for us to see eye to eye, sometimes we best try not entering into our conversation eye to eye. Well, what's wrong? Are you afraid of? No. I have seen this with others, and I've experienced it with myself. Maybe it isn't true for you, but consider it. You've got a big charge on something. It's with your wife, your husband, your partner, your mother, your father, anybody particularly close to you. You really have to straighten something out. You want to. Both of you want to. You want to get into this, but you find that as soon as you come together, there's a tension and the sense of urgency. You want to get your point in. I want to get my point in. We're both desperate to make our points with each other. We care, but we want to make our points with each other. And then when we're looking at each other, we are waiting for our opportunity. Sometimes we're not hearing each other. So to get if instead of trying to see eye to eye, we go side by side, standing, sitting down, whatever, lying down, if it works with the appropriate party, and we soften up. Maybe we breathe a little bit together, we just kind of catch our breaths. We realize it isn't all so desperate. We're right there. We're looking out kind of in the way that when we let our gaze diffuse, we're not pushing at someone. You're not trying to push someone away either. We'll get to that part in a minute. So you start to catch the breath, the timing, the pulse a little bit. And you would feel in a side-to-side thing, it can become very obviously uncomfortable when somebody's tries to then interject and talk over a partner when they're listening, when they're sensitive to that, whether they agree or not. Sure, you're waiting to have your moment. But I've experienced that it can be easier. You can enter into that true kind of empathetic or empathic intimacy with somebody when they're next to you. Maybe you're holding their hand. Not a bad idea. And the urgency, unless we're talking about an emergency, when we're not here, the urgency starts to go down. And we can start to listen to the other and formulate and bring forward more reasoned and reasonable response when the time allows, when that moment is there for us, when we're not looking for the break. How do I get in right here? It also makes it easier to not elevate or escalate emotionally and vocally, because you're close enough. You don't have to yell. You don't want to yell. Right there. It's a bit softer. It's a bit softer. And I do suggest that that's something to try with people, even if you're not in some kind of critical, emotional situation, but just to share occasionally when you can, the person or persons, people, in a family, you can lie down together a little bit and let the breath settle and start to feel, take the cues from each other. And then when that has run its time, when it's fulfilled itself, looking at each other and interacting or getting up, you may or may not then feel like you have to say something more. You've got to make sure somebody understands. You've had an entrainment, you've had a commonality, and that can be a more soothing way to interact in these desperately changing times where stresses come from all sorts of different angles. Certainly, the outer world is not deficient in presenting challenges and stresses and uncomfortable things. To have the ability to feel the comfort and connection more and more with each other, and then sensing when you're out in this world, when you're interacting with others, and you may have interactions face to face with the other people that aren't the most significant immediate others in your life. Notice how you may react and interact and act with other people. Because when you start to relax into, when you have comfort, when you're making this peace within yourself and within your family, that's the next step. Your neighbors, even if they don't literally live next door to you or upstairs or downstairs, your neighbors, the people in the world, fellow citizens, brothers and sisters, they will interact with you in different ways. It gives you the opportunity in your own knowingness how you can still yourself a bit if you need to, so you can be present for another person and let a natural interaction take place. Now, I'm trying to think if I can demonstrate this. Here's something that to think about when you are dealing either in a family situation that isn't set up for a more touchy-feely moment. Things are happening. I'm going to see. I don't know how to work with this graphically, but okay, give it a shot. Oh yeah, there I am. Well, okay. So think about, where do we go? We go here. Think about emotional things come towards us, right? They can be tension or anger or what have you. They can also be love. Right now, we're looking at the more difficult things. And they come in towards us. The average human response is to tighten very often, to push back, to defend, to deny, to get uptight. So what's an option? Well, maybe you've seen people do certain movements in the park, where they're moving their arms around, doing Tai Chi and what have you. And it's a nice little model, if you will, for what we're speaking about here. When someone is confronting us, when we're in a confronting situation, notice where my hand is. It's right in the center. Right here is solar plexus, heart area and all. It comes in, whether we consciously get it or not, we feel it. So the idea here, in a graphic physical sense, is this thing is coming in and we are letting that hand trail it off, if you will, and let it go down. If it comes in this way, we're not fighting with it. We're deflecting it. We're neutralizing something that's coming in on us. Right? There you go. You're just letting that go that way and letting this go this way and that way. So, of course, if you're standing and speaking with somebody, you're probably not going to start doing this thing. But we did say it comes in here, right? Or here a little lower, whatever's, your solar plexus, your psyche area. So just think about this center, this overall psyche, solar plexus. And you can do this by yourself. It's fun if you have a partner and you can, do pushes and things. But so here, the thought is, this is the next program in. It's coming in and you're just turning that off. You're just letting it bypass you here. Or if it comes in the other side, of course, you're just letting it bypass you there. So it's coming in and it's bypassing. So this is the broader, grosser model. Shift. But that too is not going to work very well. People can get a little freaked out. So what you do, once you understand, well, what am I doing? So you stand still and practice. With a mirror is not a bad idea. And you feel as if it's coming in and you're letting it go off to that side. Or you're letting it go off that way. Or you're letting it just come and dissipate downwards. So and you can stand around and talk and everything and even be moving a little different. But this is your idea. You're neutralizing this incoming thing that otherwise you'd want to block or fight with or what have you. As you realize that, you're realizing you can neutralize through the thought, through the idea. So therefore, you then get to another level where you're going, well, if I maintain this neutrality, if I can maintain a neutrality and be present and not stilted and strange, I don't even have to visualize past that. Once I understand what this feeling is and what I'm safe in here, I'm safe. So you're letting things come, but you're letting them go. And you can just let them go while you stay present. You don't give up if you have something you have to say, if you have a position, but you don't get locked in and contract. That's that. In the process that I teach in the workshop, we deal with this in terms of issues that we have ourselves in the moment that aren't pertaining necessarily to anybody present at the time, this consciousness workshop. And we invite it from the inside out. So this is two different sides of the same coin. When we're dealing with other people and we learn how to become relaxed enough in ourselves so that we are neutralizing these things, meaning we're not taking them on. We don't hold a breath. We let ourselves breathe in and out. We can take in and let it go. When it's coming from inside, when it's an issue that we're working on to clear, then we have an additional few steps with that process, how we know that it's working, etc. So this idea, I dare say that in any of those aspects of it, whether you're literally practicing it with a movement off to the side this way or a movement off that way, or just the turning, and then you get down to the non-motion, just the feeling of safety inside yourself here. Plenty of opportunities come our way. From here on, you can bet on it. You can bet that you're going to be able to practice lots and lots in the world today. And if we can then internalize and maintain that peace, and it's a challenge at times, there's no doubt. I'm someone who I was very prone to lose my temper in my life. And I didn't even know I was doing it until people keep saying, you're very aggressive, or you have a bad temper. And I thought, I don't think of myself that way. The one person some years ago that got through to me the most was this guy, Vladimir Vasiliev, who teaches the Sistema, Russian martial arts. And I brought him into America for the first time, I think it was, and had a workshop with all these guys I knew were into martial arts and all. We had a dinner that night, and he was doing palm reading for people. This is a guy who was a high-level operative in what's called Spetsnaz, Russian Special Forces. It's not exactly a pussycat. And, you know, what's with the palm? Because they taught these guys through the most brutal conditioning to be kind of hyper sensory. They would do a thing where they'd have 3 glasses of water in the room. One was poisoned, and they were all clear water. No, and they bring a guy in and say, well, which one's poisoned? These guys had all of this super stress stuff to break them down, to make them hypersensitive. And it's a very interesting thing that their art is interesting to Sistema because it's non-aggressive, coming from these people who are, you know, rough characters. So I'm sitting across from Vladimir at that point, and I said, hey, Vladimir, would you read my hand too? I'd be curious. He says, yes, but first I have to tell you something. I said, what's that? He said, you're too aggressive. I said, what? How do you know that? He says, I see it in your eyes. In the training, because we'd had the day of training. Yeah, you're too aggressive. I'm thinking, what, me, lovable little, I'm too aggressive. So I realized that arguing with somebody who's a killer, literally, I mean, in the service of this kind of whatever, I don't argue that with the perceptions of someone trained at that level, because there was something about it that was ringing a little true. And I said, okay, will you show me anytime tomorrow? Just help me out. Okay, so we're training and all this stuff. And I look over and he goes, geez. And then, you know, if I got it right, yes, okay. So knowing this about myself, it hasn't been easy. In certain circumstances, I would lose it way too easily. And finding these things through the Qigong practice and all of that to settle down in the breathing, and then take the psychological, emotional factors from the external stimuli, the internal stimuli, and find out how to harmonize as much as possible peace within the self, the family, and the neighbors. So we have a guest tonight that we're going to be speaking with here, and I'm going to hopefully get this right with the screen sharing stuff that I've got going on. We have Melissa is on the line, and Melissa does all of this work for the blog and then some. She has done the most remarkable and most interesting analyses of some of Billy Meier's photographs. Remember, Meier's photographs are taken back 1964 to 1981 or two. She's using super state-of-the-art technology to analyze photographs that were all super locked in analog, no fancy technology. So with that being said, I'm going to ask Don to bring Melissa into the conversation, and hopefully he does it, because I don't know that I know how to do it. Maybe I do. Let me see. Let's see. Melissa, are you there?
You hear me?
I hear you now, but you can speak up a little more.
Oh, sorry. Is that any better?
Yes. Yes, because I don't know how loudly it is going out into the world. So what I'm going to do here is attempt this little screen share, and I'm going to go to this blog of ours that's titled Hassenball Hoax Theory Debunked. Before I do, I'm going to invite Melissa to say as much or as little as she'd like to say before we start asking her about this whole thing. So Melissa, would you be so kind as to tell us a little bit about your experience, what you do, and how you came to use this technology that you're going to explain as well about to analyze Billy Meier's photos?
Yeah. So, where did you want me to start? It just with the pictures, or?
No, I really would say, if you have anything that says, you know, I kind of thought, I was looking at these photographs and I thought, why don't I try this?
Oh, sure.
Did you have that kind of a moment with this stuff? Because for us, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been fascinated by the images from the Billy Meier case, obviously, but over the years, I've just seen uh, Billy Meier's photos or hoax, just all the time you come across these lame brain comments from people that, he used models, just all
Mm.
kinds of goofy stuff. And I just set out one day and just started investigating these images and try to find a way to at least settle it for myself once and for all.
Right.
Because, intuitively, I knew that there's no way these images could be faked. I mean, it was before the digital age, no Photoshop. I mean, in the Plejaren, they're really good at positioning their beam ships in a way that, sometimes you look at it, it's, you might scratch your head a little bit and say that does look a little bit odd, but it's just, I knew there was more to it than that. Deep down, I've always known that. So I
Mm.
set out you know, to confirm it for myself once and for all. And so I just started, it started back with, you know, the stealth photos, really, when we were investigating those photos. And then
Right.
I moved on to the Hasenball because I come across a neat, uh, I didn't really know about it in the beginning, but I learned about it. It's called photo fringing,
Hmm.
where in naturally it happens in a photo sometimes where there's like a line around an object where it's kind of distorted,
Right.
like a colored line. That's it's called fringing or aberration, color aberration. And it happens naturally in a photo, but now due to advancements in photo editors and you know all things photography, you can add fringing to a photo. There's a program where you can add it, where the computer adds it, you don't do it. And so you have no control over where those lines actually get added. It will only add it around an object that's in the photo. It can't put a line around something that isn't there.
Mm. Okay.
Okay.
That's pretty far out.
Yeah.
When did
And
you discover that technology, by the way?
oh, I I, I want to say maybe, was it about a year ago?
Hmm.
It's not been that long. I'm constantly teaching myself new things with technology, and I'm always analyzing and looking at images, and I work with images a lot, especially
Right.
with the blog.
Right.
So when I learned about it, I taught myself as much about it as I could. And then it just hit me one day, this would be a great tool to use for I initially did it on the wedding cake UFO, the one
Mm.
with the car and the wedding cake UFO that
Right.
everybody says is hoaxed. But anyways, but we can start with this Hasenball, the beam ship that looks like it has the sunbeams going across it in front
Hmm.
of the tree there. So that one, and that one was a little bit harder to fringe because the tree, some of the tree branches are really thin. But as I said before, the Plejaren are, the way they position their beam ships and images, it's really quite something to behold when you think about it, because it leaves some room for doubt, but it also, when you actually investigate and research and do your due diligence, there's
Hmm.
no doubt at all, you know. So
Is it, this is the first photo in this whole Hassenball thing we're looking at,
yeah,
right?
yeah, the March 29th, 1976 image from Hasenball and Langenberg, I think it is.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're looking at?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
So, yeah, and there's a lot of text here in this article.
Yes.
It speaks about the fringing and all. So I'm going to go down to the next photo that has that glowing aqua kind of color in the deep blue background. Do you want to tell us a little about that?
Yeah. So the first photo there, so the way the story goes is that this beam ship is a model sitting close to the camera, and the tree is way back there in the distance. But due to the fringing, let's actually find out if that's true. So
Right.
this first image, the colors are simply inverted, which means they're the opposite colors on the color wheel from their real colors.
Okay.
So that's all that is just, and it just makes it easier to see and to see the fringing when you do it this way. Um, for the eye, it pulls the eye.
Sure.
So that one is just inverted. There's no fringe on that picture at all. And that's just the colors are opposite. So I think if you go to the next image,
Yes, it looks similar, but is there a difference then that
yes.
explain? Okay, go ahead, please.
So this one, the fringe has been added. And I know it's hard to see on this image, but I
Right.
think that if when you'll look at the next image, you'll see there's the tree branch itself is green, and the line of fringe on the left side of it is going to be like a dark blue or a blue color.
I'll bring that up so people can see that. There's a red arrow pointing to that.
Okay. And if you click on that image, Michael, it'll enlarge it.
Okay, let me try that. Whoa,
There we go.
as
Do you
ever.
do you see the blue line all around the beam ship?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So that is, that's the fringing. And as I mentioned earlier, it likes metallic objects a lot, the fringing, but that line, it means that it's outlined that object. So we know that object is in the picture.
Okay.
And then it outlined the branch that is, right there on the left side of the beam ship,
Right.
the green line and the blue line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the green line is the branch, the blue line is the outline.
Ah, so the green line comes across instead of the blue line of the beam ship being in front.
Yeah. So if you'll scroll to the next image, I'll explain it a little bit
This is
better.
I don't know if you can see it. Can you?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to the right one then. Oh, miraculous.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you'll notice the blue line of the fringe, it goes up the branch without any breaks. Do you see any breaks on that line?
No,
Beside,
there's some green up where the top red arrow is, but other than that, no.
but I mean right there at the edge of the beam ship. Do
Oh
you see?
no, no.
Okay. So that is the fringe outline, and the green line is the branch. So if the ship was in front of the branch, there would be a break in that blue line right there beside the beam ship.
Mm.
And then because the program, it can outline something that isn't there. So if
Right.
the tree was behind the beam ship, it wouldn't be able to put an outline there because it wouldn't be visible in the image.
Right.
And I hope that's not too confusing.
I think if people start to just appreciate the the brilliance, of course, and I don't mean just the color brilliance, the brilliance and precision of having positioned this large craft precisely in such a way that the telltale proof would be so discreet and so, so subtle, but so clear at the same time, when this technology would evolve to be present, to be used and applied to determine what was what. And there it is, no?
Exactly. And then on the other side on the right side of the
Yeah.
beam ship, that you see the line of fringe going
Yep.
pretty much all the way around there. But on the left side, there is no fringe on that left side of the beam ship, other than the line going up the branch. It's because
Right.
the branch is in front of the beam ship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Although it's hard to see that green branch, it is indeed in front of the beam ship.
Well, it's clearly there. I mean, when we get used to this visual language, we see it. And all of the foolish, frankly stupid skeptics who have floated their crazy theories about models and superimpositions and I mean, and Billy's out there with his one hand and his camera stuck at infinity and precisely catches the photographs, because the player and know how to position it. And,
They
oh my
do.
goodness. Is there
And
another one after
there's
this?
one more that where I took it down to pixels so you can
Yeah.
actually see that green line going across the edge of the beam ship there. So there's your tree branch and your beam ship's behind it.
Yeah.
Because but yeah, it's just amazing to me that, and you'll notice this in a lot of the images of a lot of the beam ship images. They just seem to strategically place their ships
Yes.
in such a way that it does leave a little bit of room for doubt,
Yep.
but it makes it makes it necessary for you to do the work to get to the bottom of it.
It's true. And if this technology had not been invented at the right time and you had not come upon it, especially because of your search, your diligent search for methodologies and technologies to determine the reality of the evidence one way or the other, we would not have this wonderful, ironclad evidence. And certainly with all the people in the world that are somewhat computer savvy, technically savvy, far so more so than I. And there it is. So here's the last. Is this photo?
Yeah, and that's just the full size image
Yeah.
if anybody wanted to, look at it full size. But I also wanted to say, Michael, that it doesn't require special skills. If somebody wants to do this at home, they can do it.
Mhm.
If I could teach myself to do it, then, it doesn't require special skills.
Others can.
Anybody can do it.
Well, I don't know about anybody,
Well,
but I get your point. Um, I think about we'll go to the WC UFO film photos next, but I think about them because with the nighttime photo that, well, let's go there now. Can you see this? I'm
yeah.
showing, yeah. So the nighttime photo, which is kind of right under where it says call to action, that photo is essentially the same as the one to the left. I mean, it's a different angle, left and lower down. The third photo on the far left, where the ship is just glowing gold and it's a black background. The skeptics always said, well, that's just a little gold painted model against, a black curtain. And when the analysts on this, I think it was Francisco Villate and Chris Locke, dropped this photo right off the internet into Photoshop, and they started messing with the contrast and the brightness, they got the one that we're looking up here. I believe that was their first. Down to the lower right on that photo is a gravel road. There's a little post that they have in Switzerland along the grassy side of the road that is about a meter high. And then behind it is a hillside. And this thing has got an energy field of its own, going on. But let's get down to your article here.
Yeah, that's a
And,
beautiful.
isn't it something? I mean,
It
these things
is.
are gorgeous. So I think, let's see here. I had included, this is just, I don't want to do that. I'll go back. Oh, gee, we're going crazy. Hold on. This is me and technology. Welcome to me and technology for your viewing pleasure. Oh, boy.
If you click outside of the image, it should disappear.
Good luck. I'm
No,
now trapped. You know that. I will
okay.
never. Okay, we'll get
Go,
there sooner or later. Okay, so hold on.
good.
I think going this way. There we go. So this is an image from a video that the skeptic Phil Langdon, who was so proud of himself, thinking he had duplicated and debunked Billy Meier's WCU, and he hooked up all of these crazy things with brackets on trees He had to add wires and lines. He pretended to do everything with one hand, even though his own videos and photos like this. He only used one hand. Oh, really? So the left one, which crosses over his body, and then the right one's holding up this, a wire or whatever here. So he floated models close in front of himself, relatively, and because they're so clear in terms, relative, Meier's object, UFOs photographed outside, they were, unless he zoomed in on them, they weren't clear because he was quite a distance from them. So Phil Langdon was very proud of himself, thinking he debunked something, and he just debunked himself, really. Here's another one. He's, moving the branch. You can do this. Oh, only one hand. These two arms are not really there. So here's a detail. I don't remember this article so clearly enough. We have quite a few slides, so we'll move through it so you can explain the fringing. Okay.
Okay. And if you want to show the interesting photo with it's just something to think about, but the one with the crystals, if you want to just hop on that one real quick.
As soon as you see one you want to describe or talk about, go for it, because this is a detail of a craft that's set down in Billy's front yard. That is the same craft that we're talking about here that was glowing gold at night and all the rest of it. And this is Phil Langdon's version of it. Just for those who need a good laugh, this is the real detail.
Beautiful.
And this is Phil Langdon's version of it. Not quite the same. Here was a detail that Meier had on the side of a ship. And this is what Phil Langdon said. It's the same thing. You see, it's just a garbage can lid.
Is that a hole?
You have really interesting things here. Different colored crystals and lenses within these gold encircled silver globes. And so Phil Langdon's duplication attempt on top and Billy Meier's real craft on the bottom. Did you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, just briefly.
Sure.
If you'll notice Phil's duplication attempt up at the top, this is again another inverted image where the colors have just simply been reversed to their opposite colors on the color wheel. Mm-hmm. If you notice Phil's image, the crystals or whatever he used for the crystals, there's no color to them. There's no, you really can't see them other than the little humps there. Right. But if you look at Billy's image of this wedding cake UFO, look at the beautiful blues, pinks, yellow, right. And then also I don't know what kind of metal that is, but it's a beautiful shade of blue on the inverse, and the crystals are a beautiful turquoise. Yeah, that's because those colors have been inverted. So the original color is red on the the ones that are turquoise, right. And they've inverted to their opposite color. But Phil's do not do that, obviously. No. Meaning that they're obviously imitation.
Yep.
And it's just interesting. It doesn't really, other than it
speaks loudly. It's a subtle. But it actually screams when you speak about what the technology reveals. It's screaming at you. One on top, fake. One on the bottom, authentic. So let's see what's next. Here you go.
Yes, and that's just showing you the red crystal. It's opposite color on the color wheel. That the bottom image is inverted from the top image.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yep. Here you go again.
The blue turns to yellow. And I believe the green turns to, is it pink? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Just beautiful. And then the gold, like I said, I'm not sure what the metal is on their ships, but the gold is a beautiful color of blue when it inverts.
999.9. Pretty fine. Okay. Wow. Look at the subtlety and the let's say a third to the left there, you've got that yellowish pinkish on top of the turquoise or something. It's very beautiful. Very beautiful indeed.
And the red lenses there inside the
Mhm.
bulbs. You see that? They're
Yep.
yellow.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my. Okay, here we go. This is interesting.
Yeah, so this dear fella, or I'm not sure, but anyways, this one is claiming that the wedding cake UFO is a little model sitting in front of the car, and oops, they're able to tell because they added something there.
Yes.
I don't know how they did that, but they added
They
some
added.
gold there.
Yep.
But that's not really in the real image. And if we'll go on down to I think it's the next photo where
Yes.
they have the red line there showing that they've proven that the image is a hoax because it's obviously in front of the car,
Right.
Mercedes. But
Yeah.
is it? Okay, so on this first one here, this is again with the colors inverted, and then we've got the fringing turned on. Now, this is not full fringing. This is like maybe 50%.
Okay.
And on the left side of the undercarriage, you can see the fringing going up around the bottom of it there. But
Right.
why can't you see it on the right side? If the
Yeah.
if it was in front of the car, there would be a line there because the beam ship is in focus in this image. The car is
Mm,
not in focus. So there should be some fringe on that right undercarriage. I don't see any at all. So
no.
there's only one reason there's no fringe on that side, and that's because it's behind the car,
Yep.
and the program cannot fringe something that's
Isn't it?
non-existent. Yeah,
And what,
exactly.
so we see it in this photo. It's clear. Let's go to the next one just to see. Oh, well, let's go back just so people can see it one more time. The beam ship is behind the car. Therefore, the car is not some dinky little model, and the beam ship isn't a model in front of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this just shows you the depth of field in in a photograph, where if you're close to something, it's going to have that blurred effect like the car,
Mhm.
versus the building in the background that is much clearer. And we know that Meier's camera was set to infinity, so
Correct.
that's exactly how that would look with his camera.
And here's
And this is the original.
actual. And now when you look at it, I don't know if my cursor's seen in this or not, but now when you look at it, you can see that, there is the artifacts that are on the bottom left of the beam ship
Yep.
are not visible in front of the car.
Right. And it's almost like an optical illusion in a
Yeah.
way, where it looks like the beam ship is kind of reflecting off the top of the car a little bit there.
Mhm.
But like that's another one of their
They're
really their wonderful, yeah, their wonderful placement of objects in an image. They're masters. They
Yeah.
really are. They're masters, and they
Here's yes.
is that
The
the
so-called garbage can.
is that
That's the
the
garbage can.
oh, Phil's garbage can lid. Yes.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah. But this is fascinating. I mean, you really drove a stake through the vampire's heart here with all of the idiots who don't know how foolish they now have been shown, not made to look, but shown to be through their own ineptitude and their arrogance and their intent to disprove something rather than to find out what is.
Yeah.
What is real and what is not real. So,
And yeah, and that picture in particular, it was one that really bothered me because I've heard that for so many years, that image was, was
right.
obviously a toy car
Oh,
or
yeah,
a
sure.
fake.
Well, you know what we should do too? Maybe we'll revisit, we'll go back on another visit with you to the UFO stealth photos because you have a lot of work in there. And you dug in, you found out it was the test pilot for the original stealth that was in, Wendell's photos, and lots of really cool stuff. So we're definitely going to invite you back for that discussion. And I'm going to, oops, what happened there? There we go. And I'm going to thank you immensely, of course, for partaking of this and kind of illuminating, if I may use that word here, why not? The reality of the evidence in some of the most controversial photos of all taken by Billy Meier of real extraterrestrial craft. No hoaxing, no special effects, no models. And unfortunately, the world discovers the truth about all of this all too late, the world at large. We know that there are many people, right, Melissa? I mean, we found this material when we did, and other people continue to find it, and they come to, theyflyblog.com, where we're putting everything we can out there for people. And nonetheless, we keep our thoughts in a nice, neutral, positive realm and look to see that these things reveal themselves when we are ready to find, let's say, the tools and technologies. If we don't satisfy ourselves through, just a knowingness when we see something and examining as best we can. And you've taken that, to a place of unimpeachable, authenticity. And so I thank you very much. And we will do it again, right?
You bet. I would love to come back.
Good.
Okay.
Love to have you. So actually, with that, I'm going to just ask people to stay cheerful, be of good cheer, and to stay safe and serene. We probably will see you next week, hopefully so. And I'll just say for tonight, using the term that expresses peace to all beings on Earth and elsewhere, of course, but the term is Salome, and we have a Salome peace meditation that couldn't be more timely. And you're invited, everybody, to discover that. You come to the blog, theyflyblog.com. You find all of this and more, and you'll find so much of Melissa's masterful work in articles. She's also written about other things, and it's a great job. So to everybody, I say good night. Thank you again, Melissa. We will see you hopefully next week. And until then, Salome.